And now we would like to invite Mr. Alex Hoel from Denodo that will talking about unlocking business agility with data virtualization. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Alex Hoel from Denodo.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, selamat pagi. That's unfortunately as far as my Bahasa goes. So the rest, I will talk in English. So thank you very much, for all of you being here, for the invitation from Cybertrend to present today about Denodo and data virtualization. And so first of all, let me give you a quick introduction of, who I am, what Denodo does. So I take care, my name is Alex, I take care of business development for Denodo in Asia Pacific. And Denodo as a company has been in the data space for the last 20 years. So we haven't been doing anything else but data. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about the typical topics that we talk with customers about. I mean, everybody is super excited about the opportunities, about the chances that you have with big data. But you also want to understand a little bit more what are the next step of detail that customers are really concerned about when we talk about data and talk about big data. And the first point, better decision taking. I mean, Forbes said, if you as a company want to stay in business till 2025, you have to improve your decision taking by 300%. So everybody's looking for how do I take these better decisions? And let's dig a little bit into detail, how do I do this actually? So the first point, consistent information access to all data. I think that's a really critical point because we have tons of data everywhere. You have tons of data in your SAP system, in spreadsheets, but also somewhere in corners where you do not even know that they exist or where you don't have access to. So that's one of the big concerns. If you want to take good decisions, consistent decisions, you need to have access to all information. The other part is, and I call it tribal knowledge. What I said, there's probably a lot of people who know a lot of stuff about your business, but only they know it. Maybe their department knows it, not everybody in the company. So the next thing is really to convert this tribal knowledge into corporate know-how so that everybody in the company has this know-how and can take, again, the best decision based on the best knowledge in the company. Everybody talks about data self-service. I mean, I couldn't understand a lot of the presentations before, but I saw self-service on a lot of the slides. So you cannot work anymore by providing, as an IT department, data to your end customers. It's not efficient, it's slow, it's error-prone. So you want to give access to your end users to take the right decisions, but at the same time, you want to stay in control. You cannot give everybody information just like that. So you need to do that in a structured way. The next point, real-time information. I think everybody's used to the fact that, well, data might be kind of early, but depending on your technologies, you sometimes might have data that is 2 days old if you're lucky, and if you're unlucky, it's 2 weeks old. So in a business environment that is getting faster and faster, you want to have information as fresh and as new as possible to take the best decisions ever. So that's why you want to have real-time information, and more customers are asking for that as well. And then the last but not least critical point is really information changes constantly. Our business changes every day, and our information demands change every day as well. So you do not want to take decisions based on, well, outdated structures of data. If I today go to my CFO and he says, Alex, I need this report tomorrow, I cannot wait for my IT department to tell me, yeah, difficult. I give you that data maybe next week. So that's simply not working as well. So you need that agility to really provide changes in the information structures, in the information sources that you need really quick and on time. So that's number one. Number two, data governance and compliance. I think we all see the great opportunities with big data, but there's also risk. There are a lot of stories out there where confidential data has been leaked, where regulators have fined big numbers to companies, plus your reputation is at risk as well. So you want to make sure that you are compliant with whatever regulations out there, being it data sovereignty, being it private information. And so you want to make sure you have a layer of access that really makes sure you have the right people accessing the right information. You do some logging of that information, so you have an audit trail, so later on you can find out who is accessing which information. And if you really, I mean, the biggest risk that we are seeing at the moment is really rogue employees who are accessing information that should have access to that information. If you have guys like that, it cannot take you 5 days to shut him down. You want to shut him down immediately. So that's another big requirement. Plus, at the same time, everybody talks about data catalogs. So you want to expose your metadata, your data about data, to your end users, so they can make best use of the data available. And sorry. And all of that actually comes together to what we would call a business semantic layer. It really gives you, as a company, an idea of what information do I have, who is using this information, how is this information being used. So that's another big thing. And then last but not least, reduction of IT cost. We're living in a world where we're producing more data every year than whole mankind has generated of information in all the years before. So when we talk to companies, we're seeing probably 500% more data being stored and generated year on year. But at the same time, IT budgets don't go up 500%. IT budgets stay the same, IT budgets reduce. So you have to do more with the same or more with less. So you want to have a simplified IT infrastructure. You want to make your things easier. At the same time, well, I come from the SAP world, so in the good old days we did SAP projects, 3 years, 5 years long, 10,000s of man days. These days are over. This is not happening anymore. Everybody wants to do projects in 3 months, 6 months. They want to see results. So you want to have shorter data projects. You want a fast time to value. And these are most of the, or basically when we talk to customers, that's what we typically see everywhere. The good news for us being in Denodo is actually we address basically all these points with our solution. So we think we have a really, really good value proposition for our customers. And I mean, today we do not have a lot of time to do a detailed discussion of what we're doing, but we have a booth outside. So if you would like to learn more about Denodo, please feel free to come outside to my colleagues and myself to learn a little bit more about what we do. But in quick, basically Denodo data virtualization is a layer between your data storage and your data consumers. We're abstracting whatever technologies lies underneath, being it SQL, being it SAP, being it a Hadoop, being it a cloud storage, and your data consumers, being it a Tableau, being it another analytics tool, being it a web service, being it a call center. So we allow those two business areas basically work independently from each other without influencing what the other is doing, without impact, while not disrupting the business. One of the key differences to what you might know as a more traditional data integration technology is really this classic ETL or ELT processes. But that means you're copying data. You're making copies of copies of copies of copies of data, which is in today's world of fast data generation, huge data volumes, simply not a technology that is working anymore. It's too slow. It's too expensive. 75% of the data that is being stored in every organization is actually not relevant or is not being used. And now you're making copies and copies and copies of that irrelevant data. This is just a waste of money. So what we do is we leave the data where it is. We leave the data at the place where it's being generated, and we make that data available to whoever needs it at that particular moment in time. So as a, let's say, nice picture that I like, if you're talking about an ETL process, you are moving the ocean to bring a glass of water to a thirsty man. What we are doing is we take a glass of water and give it directly to the thirsty man. So it's much faster, much more efficient, and actually much cheaper as well. A nice side effect is if you don't replicate data, you have always access to real-time information. Big benefit. We actually store data in data virtualization, which is the metadata. So we know exactly what data exists. We have a strong security layer. You get a centralized layer for data access, which makes it a perfect place then also to provide data self-services to your consumers. And then at the same time, a lot of companies who are moving into the cloud can leverage data virtualization because as we abstract the business and the storage, you can change your storage, you can change your infrastructure without any impact to your investment in data analytics and BI. It's just invisible for them, there's no disruption. So a lot of benefits that customers get actually out of data virtualization, especially in a big data world. So here are some of the use cases, and I touched some of those. So one of them we call Agile BI. So it's really, you want to bring together a lot of data from different places. You want to bring them together in an agile way because they change all the time. So you can do that in a much faster way than everybody else. You can do your real-time dashboards. You can have your virtual data marts. The other use case is typically around logical data warehouse and logical data lake. So basically an extension of an existing physical data warehouse that you're using, and we can do this in a much faster way. So if you are adding a new data source to a data warehouse, you probably take somewhere between 2 to 3 months, what we typically see. We can do the same in probably 2 to 3 days. So significantly faster. Another big use case that we see is actually data warehouse offloading. So many customers have some kind of a very expensive data appliance, like for example a Teradata and Exadata. And you have legal requirements to keep 7 years of data stored. If you have to store 7 years of your transactional data in Teradata, that costs you millions. So a lot of people are moving now, I don't know, you need that top performance maybe for the last 12, 24 months, but every other historical data goes to the cloud, much cheaper. With Denodo, you can make it completely transparent for your data consumers where their data sits. You change your infrastructure without impact to your investment. Then another one is the whole area of data services. So a lot of customers are looking for customer 360, student 360, patient 360. They want to expose data maybe through APIs. All of that can be done out of the box with our solution as well. And then last but not least is really that move into the cloud. And I think that's a trend that we're seeing at different speeds in different countries. In the US, where we are coming from, it's actually a huge trend that everybody's moving at least all the non-critical stuff into the cloud. And again, because we abstract location, it doesn't really matter for us where the data sits. Again, no disruption for your business once you're changing your infrastructure, once you're moving into the cloud. So I've got only one customer example over here. So Seacoast Bank is a bank in California. And they have grown extremely fast over the years. And they're now considered system relevant. So meaning if you're a system relevant bank in California or in the US, your regulatory requirements go up significantly. So you need to provide much more reports, much more information. And they used to have what I think a lot of companies these days have, physical data marts. Copy data into several places and then split it up into smaller pieces so that your accounting department, your loan department has the right information. That took them far too long. So what they did was actually they switched to data virtualization and they created what they call, or what we call virtual data marts. So these are just logical data marts which can be created in a much faster way by just having the virtual data information when it is really required. And one of the benefits they got out of switching to data virtualization is they needed about 3 days to create one new report. Now they only need 3 hours. So a significant saving for these guys. So my last minutes, I just want to spend a little bit about who is actually this company, what are some of the customer benefits. So I mentioned it earlier, Denodo as a company, we're a global company. We're actually 20 years old. We have 14 offices worldwide. We basically work a lot with very large customers. So that includes, for example, companies like Boeing, Visa, Amex. Here in Asia Pacific, we have customers like Singtel, like Maybank, like SMBC, like Nomura Bank, KDDI, Telenor, to mention some of the companies that we have been working with over here. And we're seeing an incredible uptake and incredible interest here in Asia Pacific, which is for us still a relatively new region as a company. I mean, I can tell you we have great products. It's obviously always better if somebody else says that as well. So I'm not going to go into the details, but we are on the Gartner Magic Quadrants and Forrester Waves assessment for data integration, for data virtualization, everywhere in the leading quadrant. So we have probably the best product for data virtualization in the market. This is also something that Gartner said. First of all, data virtualization is really a solution that is going mainstream right now. So by 2022, 60% of all organizations will have some form of data virtualization realized. And the other important part is they see that if you're using data virtualization compared to more traditional data integration technologies, you can save up to 45% of cost. And that's actually something that when we are talking to our customers, that's what we see as well. So quite significant saving compared to, well, the traditional way of integrating data. So let me summarize some of the benefits that we're seeing, and I mentioned some of those already. But I think the important part is really we have a platform that is tailored for agile data access to get all the information, to take the right decisions, to enable and empower your end users for self-service. At the same time, we do that in a structured way, in a secure way, so that compliance and governance are actually covered with that solution. And at the same time, you get benefits like real-time data, you get much faster project timelines, so we can do projects probably 80% faster than if you do it in a traditional way, plus you save up to 45% of cost compared to traditional integration technologies. So that's my last slide. So a couple of things, a little bit of, first of all, there are two colleagues of mine. They are outside at the booth as well if you have further questions. We have here also a book called Data Virtualization for Dummies. So a great way to get familiar with data virtualization. And if you drop your name card, we have also an iWatch that you guys can win. So that's me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex Hoel, for your presentation from Denodo.